So last night there was a meeting in Panama City Beach. There's stuff going on all over the place. Lots of stuff going on all over the place. But particularly interesting last night was the Panama City Beach's continual blitzkrieg to destroy Lullwater Lake. Of course, under the pretext of cleaning it up. I'm going to tell you stuff and show you stuff tonight that the FBI has. That's going to blow your mind. Now, Lullwater Lake is in Panama City Beach, and it's right on Front Beach Road, not far from the water. Probably, I don't know, a football field from Lullwater Lake to the water, to the Gulf. I could take a baseball and throw it and hit the water. I mean, it's not that far. You say, Bernie, I'd like to see you do that. There was a time, anyway, but under Lullwater Lake, there's a big giant pipe, and what it used to be before there was ever a Front Beach Road, which I believe was built in 1969, it was a what kind of lake is it called? Somebody help me out here. I forgot what it's called. It was a dune lake. In other words, there was a flow of salt water into Lullwater Lake, and then the freshwater Lullwater Lake into the Gulf. It was a rare dune lake, a treasure, a beautiful lake. But when they choked it off with Front Beach Road, they had to put a pipe underneath it. And then later on, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it became infested with lily pads, which was a problem. But then the real problem came about 5 years ago, when the city of Panama City Beach decided that they wanted to, and I'm not joking, that they want to discharge storm water into the Gulf. Polluted storm water into the Gulf. Where are they going to get the storm water? North of Back Beach Road. They call it an outfall project. They got $21 million for this a few years ago. When they first brought it up about 2.5 years ago, the consultants said it would be a $17 million project. I said, I bet it costs $50 million. It's well above that now. But the city of Panama City Beach lied on an application, submitted old maps, said that Pier Park was a blighted area. Yeah, they submitted these applications for a HUD grant for the $21 million for the outfall project. Now, what they say is the outfall project will reduce flooding, which they need. It'll do the opposite. They say that it'll harden infrastructure, and that it will reduce, what is it called? When water runs down from north of Back Beach Road during storms and comes down and causes those little, what is it called? Those little gullies in the dirt. They say it'll help so much with all these things, and it'll help so much that they want to dig 30-foot deep trenches in the Gulf of Mexico and put pipes big enough to drive cars through and discharge water from north of Back Beach Road. They want to dry out the wetlands north of Back Beach Road so that St. Joe can develop there. They're going to dry up the wetlands, and they're going to divert the water into the Gulf. And as they continue to build impervious surfaces and more parking lots and these kinds of things, there's even more water that will not absorb into the soil, and that will be discharged into the Gulf, polluted water into the Gulf. They lie about it all the time. But these are facts. These are true. Now, whenever I connect the dots and tell you what I think is really going on, I'll let you know when it's conjecture. But these are all data points. This is all facts. All right. So, so when they bring all the water down from north of Back Beach Road and all these other places, they want to put it into one place. They need a retention pond so that they can take it from there and discharge it into the Gulf of Mexico. And so they want to turn the beautiful Dune Lake, Lullwater Lake, into a polluted retention pond. So last night, they voted on a resolution to get $3 million from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Look, whenever you deal with government, it will change the entire ecosystem, Connie. It's just horrendous what it will do up there, too, not just in the Gulf of Mexico. When they dig these giant trenches a quarter of a mile from the pier at Pier Park and discharge stormwater near the end of the pier. But it'll also damage the ecosystem up in the wetlands in so many ways. But I need to stay focused. So they voted on this $3 million. Now, what will the $3 million do? You're going to see they claim, because I'm going to show you some clips from the show, they claim that what it'll do is they will restore Lullwater Lake. Sounds great, right? Oh, boy, we need that. But what they're really going to do is destroy it even more. I'm going to tell you some crazy things tonight. But by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there right off the top. Do you know what one of the things they're going to do to Lullwater Lake? Are you ready for this? To restore the lake? They are establishing a floating wetland. A floating wetland, a gigantic moss that they want to put on top of the lake. Only government. Now, government at all levels, local, state, and federal, if they say that the program is designed to do something, you would become very wealthy by betting that the opposite will happen, right? If the government creates, I don't know, let's make something up crazy, an Affordable Care Act, an Affordable Health Care Act, you can bet it will be so unaffordable that you'll need subsidies for it. If they create a Consumer Protection Act, you can bet that it'll hose consumers. This is how government works, because the incentives are perverted. And then when you get to the local level, you've got people like Mark Money Mover Sheldon, the mayor of Panama City Beach, and one of the most deceitful and dishonest guys I've ever seen, Michael Jarman, up there. This dude is unbelievably deceitful. And Paul Casto, who's garbage. And Phil Chester, I don't even want to anymore talk about it. These guys, I say it all the time, and I borrowed this joke from John Latham. They would put arsenic in the Gulf if the kickbacks were big enough. I'm telling you they would. They know the country's going to hell, and the city and the county and everything else, and they think if they can enrich themselves enough that the hard times won't affect them. They want generational wealth, and they're going to steal it. Mark Sheldon, boy, I'll tell you what. Mark Sheldon was being investigated. He was subpoenaed by the FBI, the entire city council in Panama City Beach, the entire city council in 2020, August of 2020. Sheriff's Office, Public Trust Unit investigating Sheldon. The FBI all over Sheldon. And now, after about 3 years, Sheriff Tommy Ford is taking Gulf Coast Jam tickets from him. For the office, of course. I'm going to show you something. This was, I believe, yesterday. This is nauseating. This was at the Bay County Chamber of Commerce. All right, let's get to my page here and go down to right here. Look at this picture. This picture was taken, I believe, last night, the Bay County, or yesterday, whatever, at the Bay County Chamber of Commerce. This week. Who's in this picture? That's as big as I can blow it up. Do you recognize anybody there? On the left, you have the CFO of Florida, who is a very good bet to be the next governor of Florida, Jimmy Patronis. Next to him, you've got Sheriff Tommy Ford. Okay. Tommy Ford has his arm around, he's hugging State Representative Grifter Griffiths. In the middle is U.S. Senator Rick Scott, who is here to survey the damage from the massive tornadoes that ravaged Panama City Beach. Worst tornado in the area since 1967, since when I was born. Look at how old I am. That's how long it's been since we've had tornadoes that bad. So people are suffering. The place is ravaged. And these guys are hucking it up with their hands in the cookie jar. Looking for more FEMA money, looking for more federal money, state money. We need a lot of money. The cookie jars are getting low. Next to Rick Scott, you've got Mayor Mark Money Mover Sheldon. Look at how happy and comfortable he is. Sheriff Tommy Ford and them lied to me for years, collecting information to protect him and others. Look at Sheldon. Sheldon has tons of protection. I wouldn't bet it'll last, though. I'm telling you. Look, I want them to be brazen. I want them to be confident and flippant. I want them to stick their hands deeper in the cookie jars, and they are. All of them are. Look at Mark Sheldon. I was going to say the bald guy, but, you know, you see him there with his feet crossed. And the St. Joe company is pretty big. They can really protect people from the state level, but how the hell are they stopping the FBI from continuing their investigation and wrapping these people up? Well, when you realize the St. Joe company is owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, more than 20%, then you say, holy shnikes. See, BlackRock is the biggest company in the world, and they control the world right now. You say, Bernie, how could they do that? No one's that big. They manage $10 trillion, at least, probably $15 trillion. Do you know how many countries in the world have economies that are that big? 2, the United States and China. The third most wealthy, biggest entity on earth is BlackRock. And they buy up Target, they buy up all these companies, Disney, all the media companies. So when you see all this DEI Bolshevik going on, it's because they buy more than 20% of companies and then tell them if you don't destroy everything, you're not going to get the money anymore. And then then they have to, or they think they do. And then Mayor Mark Sheldon, he's got his arm around a D.C. lobbyist. That D.C. lobbyist might look familiar to you. His name is Steve Sutherland. We helped him get elected to Congress in 2010. I went to Congress with him. I was there when he swore in. For the first year, he would text me and say, Bernie, we were best buds, kind of like me in the sheriff's office. God. And he would text me, I'd be sitting at the No Name. It'd be 2011. I've got the text messages. I mean, I kept them. I thought it was pretty cool. When Rick Scott, this was when Governor Rick Scott would call me and ask my opinion about votes, invite me to dinner at the governor's mansion. It was a big deal. I really thought it was a big deal, but, you know, I wasn't willing to sell out the state, my conscience, my soul, and the country when they started losing their minds. Yeah, I'll never forget sitting at No Name, 11 o'clock, midnight. The No Name was my favorite saloon. I can't believe I just said that. I'd tell you the name of it, but it doesn't have one. I'd be sitting there sipping on some apple juice, 90 proof, and get a text from Steve, Congressman Sheldon. John Boehner, Speaker of the House, wants me to vote this way, but I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do the right thing for the constituents in the country. Bernie, what do you think? I think it's awesome, Steve. I'm so proud of you. Do the right thing, man. Love you, dude. Then a couple years later, Steve Sutherland thought his constituent was John Boehner, not us. By that time, it was 2013, 2014, and Steve Sutherland co-sponsored a bill to put illegal aliens in the U.S. military and to arm ISIS and to fund abortion. And I talked about it every day on the radio. And the congressman would call the radio station, along with others, and say, you got to get rid of Bernie Thompson. He's killing us here. And they did. In 2014, in August, I was fired because, fair warning, the owner of the station told me to stop. And I did my best, but I just couldn't lie to you. Damn the torpedoes, fire me, take everything I have, do whatever you want. I don't have to storm the beaches of Normandy. I only have to tell you the truth. That's my job. That's my duty. To restore freedom in this republic. But, you know, the DC life can do incredible things to you. And so I got fired in 2014, and I would do it 100 more times. I'm not complaining about it. And Steve Sutherland was unelected. I mean, it was a bloodbath. Do you know, by the way, do you know who Steve Sutherland's chief of staff was? When we were at war over what? Over get your name off the bill where you're co-sponsoring illegal aliens in the U.S. military so they can get a pathway to citizenship. It was 2013. Steve came on the radio show. You know what he told me? He said, Bernie, I believe that if you're willing to die for your country, then you should be able to serve your country. I said, Steve, these are illegal aliens. America's not their country. Syria is. Mexico is. Canada is. The hell's wrong with you? When I was a captain in the U.S. Air Force, I never once looked around and thought, boy, we'd have a better fighting force if we just had some illegal aliens around. I never did that. As I sip my canteen. I love this canteen. Miss Sarah Moon, she says you're the only guy I've ever known walks around with a damn canteen. This tonight is coffee. Just because. I got apple juice waiting for me at home, so I can't wait to get there. But anyway, that's Steve Sutherland. So he used the House of Representatives as a springboard to become a multimillionaire lobbyist. And he's the one helping all he can to protect these guys. So you've got a U.S. senator, former U.S. congressman, now a lobbyist, the CFO of Florida, who's probably going to be the next governor, the sheriff. Watch what you say about him. He might send prowlers in your backyard for 8 minutes. I mean, there's a big protection racket. And so in 2021, the FBI told a judge that Bay County is more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans in a search warrant affidavit. Now, what's interesting, you got to admit what's interesting, is if that's true, if Bay County is more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans, and the FBI knows it and told a judge that, why isn't anybody getting rounded up? Why aren't they cleaning up the corruption? Maybe it's them. Maybe it's mutual assured destruction. If Sheriff Tommy Ford arrests Griff Griffiths, maybe Griff Griffiths sings about Sheriff Tommy Ford. Mutual assured destruction. So what's the answer? Well, the answer, of course, is vote Sheriff Tommy Ford the hell out of there in August. And, you know, Mayor Sheldon, vote him the hell out of there in April. But Bernie, he's got $80,000 already in his coffer for his campaign. Hey, FBI, Homeland Security, why don't you take a look at where the $80,000 came from? Boy, he raised a lot of money. He went around asking people for donations. Not. All right, anyway, that's those guys. Look at their demeanor. This is this week. This is yesterday, I believe. Maybe Tuesday. No, it can't be Tuesday. That's when the tornadoes hit. That's why Senator Rick Scott's here. They're there to see how they can rebuild our community that was ravaged, and they're all hucking it up with their arms around each other. Anyway, I just want to tell you that. I posted that on the Facebook page. That's incredible, isn't it? All right, so boy, I just took way too much time on that. I didn't plan to go into all that, but you know, I guess it goes into what I'm going to show you tonight, which is just absolutely unbelievable. So the Mark Sheldon, and wait till you see the way that Mayor Mark Sheldon treats citizens. I'm going to tell you who owns Lullwater Lake, and I'm going to prove it to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. When it's over, you're going to say, damn, Bernie, you were right. There's no way you're going to say I wasn't right about who owns Lullwater Lake. The lake that the St. Joe Company wants to use as their retention pond to pollute the Gulf of Mexico so they can dry up the wetlands, so they can develop. So these guys here that I just showed you can vote in their favor. And, you know, if they're getting kickbacks and land deals and pole barns and sacks of cash, you know, maybe BlackRock and the St. Joe Company say, hey, we got to overlook that because, you know, they're team players here. We got to make sure BlackRock's successful and St. Joe's successful. You know, that kind of thing. But I do believe, and I'm going to tell you now, I believe this. Here's what I wrote. And I'm not just saying this. I have reasons to believe this. I said, the big question is if the FBI was telling the truth about Bay County being more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans, then why are public officials free to keep shoving their dirty hands into taxpayer cookie jars? The question is, will the protection racket withstand the vibrations of accountability that have been going on now for a long time? Or will the foundation begin to crack? And I sort of think the longer the vibrations go on, and as seats of power change, and as more and more people find this very difficult to stomach, people who can actually do something about it, I just think that maybe, and I've seen it in my life a few times, maybe the brazen and the guilty maybe their confidence will betray them. All right, I'm going to show you what happened at the meeting yesterday, and I'm going to show you a whole lot more right after this.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. All right, so before I show you this, I want to tell you who owns Lullwater Lake. The people who live there own the lake. The city doesn't own the lake. And the city now admits they don't own the lake after they claim they own the lake for a while. Now the city says the state owns the lake. It is absurd. It's a lie. They know it's a lie. But sadly, the owners of the homes in the subdivision around Lullwater Lake, they have not sued the city of Panama City Beach to put an injunction on all of this. And it's tragic that they haven't done that. And the reason they didn't do that is because when I told them you own the lake, and when I proved to the owners in the Lullwater subdivision that they own the lake, they know they do, but it would be very expensive to clean the lake that's been polluted mostly by these people. So when the city said, look, We just want to clean it up. We can get millions of dollars to clean it up. The citizens, the owners of that subdivision who owned the lake, they thought, well, it'd be better, if the city, they've got the means and the state has the means to clean it up. So let's not argue and fuss about it. But what they didn't take into account is that the city wouldn't clean the lake. They would destroy it. They would turn it into a retention pond of filth, and now of a floating wetland over it. They didn't know that. So they still could sue the city and stop all this. But Bernie, how do you know for sure? How do you know for sure that the residents, that the owners of the subdivision own Lullwater Lake? Let me show you. The FBI has this. This was written on September of 2020, right after they were subpoenaed by the FBI. The FBI got this note. This is a note from the attorney of Panama City Beach, Amy Myers. Amy Myers drafted a letter that the city never ended up sending to the residents, to the owners of the homes in the subdivision. The city did not want to take response. They didn't want to spend money to clean up the lake. So they wrote a letter to the city, to the residents. It never ended up going out because they got a better idea. Let's say the state owns it, and then we'll take it from them and use it as a retention pond to pollute the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll all get rich doing it. Okay? But this is the letter that they had to give to the FBI, written by Amy Myers. The draft letter that would have gone out says, "Dear neighbor, this letter is to advise you that, effective immediately, the city will no longer maintain or assist in the maintenance of the park properties commonly known as Popeye Park and Lullwater Park, as indicated on the enclosed exhibit. Based on our review of public records, these properties have not been dedicated to the city for public use. As such, the city has no property interest or authority to exercise in order to maintain these properties." Now, they didn't send the letter. You see there that it says Popeye Park. They have no authority over Popeye Park because it's owned by the residents. They never sent the letter. They stole Popeye Park. They stole that parcel, and they built a children's playground on it next door to the former mayor, Mike Thomas's family, so Mike Thomas's grandkids would have a park. They stole the land. They stole that lot, Popeye Park. The FBI knows all this. The former city manager, Tony O'Rourke, of blessed memory, he passed away, by the way. He was a good man. He gave me and others all of this stuff. The FBI has it all. But they didn't do anything about it. Now, in the plat, which I do not have a picture of, or I would have shown it to you, it says also the lake and all parts of the lake is owned by. All of that, all the parks, all the boat ramps, all the lake, and all parts of the lake are owned. They were dedicated to the owners in the subdivision by the developer. The 1962 Diamond Head Plat is the governing document, and they know it. But they lie, and nobody holds them accountable. And the residents, the owners of the subdivision, they have not sued for this. It would be a slam dunk. How do I know? Well, only because the greatest. All right, you see all this. Okay. According to the plan, I'll tell you in a second. According to the plats, see, I told you, establishing these parks and lakes. The park was dedicated to the owners for their use and benefit, and as such, the responsibility for maintenance of these properties belongs to the owners as well. While the city understands maintenance of the property may be a hardship, the city also expects the neighborhood to make arrangements to see what the parks continue to be maintained. All right? Now, I'm going to tell you something really crazy, and you can just search for old shows and see it. When the city gave these notes and information to the FBI said, we want to see the 1962 Diamond Head plat. We want to see who owns the parks and the lake and all that stuff. Do you know what the city attorney, Amy Myers, did? That's why I nicknamed her Whiteout, Amy Whiteout Myers. She gave the FBI an altered document of the 1962 Diamond Head plat where parks and other things, well, parks were removed. There was just white out. And they did it in such a way, they altered the copy of the plat in such a way that they even put in font that looked like the 1962 typewriter. So I made sure that the FBI and Sheriff Tommy Ford had a copy of the original plat and of the altered plat, the fake document that the city gave to the FBI. I confronted the city in public meetings, asked them if they denied doing it, and they did not deny it. They can't. So the FBI will put you, they will charge you, and the U.S. Attorney's Office will prosecute you, and the judge will put you in prison if you lie to the FBI, unless you are certain people, most especially people like the Lynn Haven city manager, Vicki Gaynor. They love when she lies. And evidently, they don't give a flip. They used to. I know they used to. I know they used to in 2021. But I always wondered why attorney Cole's son Davis, I always wondered why he was so brazen, why he would felt brave enough to threaten the FBI. Yeah, I know about that. Cole Davis called Special Agent Lawrence Borghini. Said, I'll file a complaint on your ass. That pissed him off. But something happened. Something happened. And nobody was ever held accountable. So now, where are we? Well, let me tell you. Now, Lullwater Lake is the target for the St. Joe Company to divert the water from the wetlands and then to use it as a retention pond and send the discharged polluted stormwater into the Gulf. You say, how are they getting the federal permits? I just told you BlackRock owns the St. Joe Company. They got the juice, man. That's how. But I want you to remember forever, when they dig up the Gulf of Mexico, 30-foot trenches, and destroy the rock bed and put pipes under the ground big enough to drive cars through, when you've got the jackup rig out by Pier Park, and all this stuff happens, remember who did it. Mayor Mark Sheldon, Jeff McConnell. I'll tell you a story about that. Got to make sure that everything is, that I can tell the story without, I can tell you the story. So Jeff McConnell was on the commission, council back then. And when the consultants were going to be at the 6 o'clock meeting to talk about doing this, in the afternoon, the meeting was at 6 p.m. In the afternoon, Councilman Jeff McConnell was opposed to it. He was concerned about the environment and so on and so forth. But something happened between the afternoon and 6 p.m. Because at 6 p.m., Jeff McConnell was the biggest cheerleader for it. How about that? Well, what's that mean, Bernie? I don't know. You connect dots. I tell you that throughout history, it's usually your own people who screw you over the worst. Just look throughout history. It's your own people. And it's in Panama City, millions of gallons, more than 1 million gallons of raw sewage. Just polluting the bays, the parks, the neighborhoods, just with worst stuff. And they act like it's not a big deal. Because, see, if they fix it, they won't get a grant later on. That's how the game's played. All right, so now that you know that Lullwater Lake is owned by the owners of Lullwater Lake, let's look at the charade that took place at the meeting last night. All right. Now, this lady here, this is Molly. She lives on Lullwater Lake. She loves Lullwater Lake. She, for about 7 years now, has been like the Chinese guy standing in front of the tank at Tiananmen Square. She's done all she can. Do you know that she has water samples? She takes water samples. She goes out on a little canoe, and she takes water samples of the lake, and she has been for many years. She lives on the lake. She loves the lake. She's also on the side of Lullwater Lake that is next to Pier Park. Okay, so here's the story. So there is a big giant golf company that they voted on to bring to Panama City Beach. And of course, it takes a vote and permits and all that stuff. And that's the way it's supposed to be done. Well, during an interview after the meeting a couple of weeks ago, Mayor Mark Sheldon says, oh, also, by the way, I'm proud to tell you that I'm bringing in a big giant restaurant theater called, it's like Dolly Parton's Pirate Adventure Show. There's 3 of them in the country now. One of them happens to be in Tennessee, by the way, where Sheldon has connections. So without ever voting on it, without ever getting the proper permits or anything, without the other council members knowing about it, Mary Coburn had no idea this was happening. No idea about the permits. Nothing. Sheldon just tells WJHG or WMBB, one of the two, yeah, I'm bringing in Dolly Parton's restaurant, and they're doing construction right now, right next to Molly's house. And all the construction is leaking oil and pollutants into the lake even more. So she wants to know what the hell's going on. Like, nobody knew about Mary. Nobody knew about this except Sheldon. Now, this is exactly what Panama City accused Mayor Doc Rowan of doing, saying that he acted behind their backs and did an official act. He did no such thing. But Mayor Sheldon did. And Sheriff Tommy Ford loves it. He says, hey, Mark, when are we getting some more Gulf Coast Jam tickets for the office? I mean, this is really incredible, isn't it? So Molly's up there, and she's got a few questions. Let's take a listen. And again, they're about to vote on $3 million to put a floating wetland on top of Lullwater Lake.
I want to ask, I'm thankful that Lynn Fasoni and Drew Whitman were able to get me some drawings for some of the proposed construction that's around the lake. And I have a question about the permit. Has it been approved already, or is it in the works? Is it for
Be specific.
I will be specific, sorry, for where the Pirate Voyage restaurant will be going, for Dolly Parton, and I can't remember the name of the big conglomerate.
That's okay.
That she's involved in.
I believe everything's already been issued.
The permits have been issued?
I believe so.
And by who and when was that done?
I'd have to get those dates in time for you. But
Because that seemed to get skipped right over. We had a big presentation for the big golf, the big top golf. Everybody came in. There was a hearing about what, will it affect your property? What do you think about it? Do you think it's good for the community? And now, from what I understand, they have to seat 500 people a night to make it there. So 500 people will be very, very close to my house every night. And I'm just really a little bit concerned that the city didn't think it was within anyone to announce it to our neighborhood. In fact, nobody really even knew about it till the mayor said it on the news. So I'm just a little bit concerned that it's, anyway. Also, I'd like to announce that there was some pollution that came.
So now she's going to say that, you know, while they're developing this at Pier Park, right next to her home, right next to Lullwater Lake's down from it. So when there's a storm, all the oil, all the pollutants, all the stuff runs into the lake by our house, which used to be a beautiful lake, a treasure, a dune lake. All the people who say they care about the environment, I don't want to hear anything. But, well, Bernie, we love dune lakes, but, you know, geez, we got businesses here, and, you know, Mayor Sheldon, okay. So you don't like dune lakes that much. You just like pictures of them, maybe. Anyway. So she's super concerned. It's her lake. And I want you to notice when she's done making her case, watch the way she is treated by Mayor Mark Sheldon. And later, by the deceitful, very deceitful Mike Jarman, the city councilman. Watch how they treat her. And if this doesn't upset you, I don't understand. I really don't. I mean, I know maybe you're busy. How we, as neighbors in a community, can allow these petty tyrants, these so-and-sos, to treat us like this, and you don't come to her defense? You're not writing letters. You're not calling. You're not doing anything? Watch.
Into Lullwater Lake, I believe it is from the current construction for the Pirate Voyage, Dolly Parton, yada, yada. I did take a sample. I took pictures. I've reported it to environmental agencies, and so I do have that sample. I'll have it tested to see if the suspended, clouded, espresso-looking stuff that was in the lake behind my house matches construction sand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda.
Have you ever seen a bigger piece of shit in your life than that mother right there? That's how government treats us. Who works for whom? He's got $90 million in the bank. Boy, he'll get reelected with ease. No, he won't. Not if we all do our part and tell everybody that he wants to drill and pollute the Gulf, that he is sucking of the St. Joe Company, that this whore right here will treat people like this. That when he took office, it was about $40 million to run the city, and 3 years later, it's $240 million to run the city. That he's the mayor and the concert promoter. I could go on, but I need to bite my tongue right now. Watch again. Does this not make your blood boil? Or am I just, is this just histrionics? Bernie, you're just a little over the top. And I'll tell you what, I just don't get it, how we allow this to happen. Watch how dismissive he is about her lake, about him unilaterally bringing in a company. And all of a sudden they get magic permits and they're doing construction and it's polluting her lake and her home. And she goes up there like the Chinese guy standing in front of the tank at Tiananmen Square. And none of us want the mayor to be mad at us. I mean,
Tested to see if the suspended, clouded, espresso-looking stuff that was in the lake behind my house matches construction sand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda.
all right, I'm going to move on to when they get to this portion of the meeting. And there are some more questions, and I'll show you how they answer these questions. Okay, this is Francois. Francois lives on Lullwater Lake. I believe he's the president of the Lullwater Lake Association. And he's wondering what the $3 million is going to be spent on. He looked at the plans. He's a very educated man, by the way. He looked at the plans, and he's saying, what is all this? And of course, Mayor Sheldon and the very deceitful Mike Jarman, who uses God's name in vain and pretends that you've got misinformation and he's got the facts. This guy is he's the worst of the worst, man. Mike Jarman. The way that it ever occur to you that you're not infallible, Mike, that you're not omniscient, that you don't get to say something's misinformation, you stupid ass. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. So they're going to ask legitimate questions. Watch how they're treated.
Questions about the scope of work, which probably hasn't been fleshed out yet until the project is put out to bid, but I'm just confused by the attachments that show the actual lake and the basin. There are two areas, one is in blue and one is larger in yellow, and I was just wondering, is that just to show the basin itself, or will there be work in all the areas? I'm just a little confused because we think of the lake and the fingers around our area on this side, on the on the west side of Pier Park as the lake, without understanding what the full basin is. So I was wondering if there is going to be work throughout all the areas that are.
What it's beginning to sound like, remember Lullwater Lake, the east side of it, he's talking about the west side of it, which is the body of the lake. I believe on the east side of it is next to Pier Park. That is the basin, I think. But what you'll hear, what it sounds like, is since Mark Sheldon unilaterally brought in Dolly Parton's big giant restaurant theater pirate show, since they brought, and by the way, they said it's gonna bring 60 jobs, but they're gonna bring people in from around the country. Anyway, so that's the area between the restaurant and Molly's home. That's the area that they want to put a floating wetland. They want to basically beautify it for the big developers and continue to pollute the ever-living and ruin. Turn it into a retention pond of pollution and then send it into the Gulf. Anything to make the big developers happy. Imagine the kickbacks. And imagine being the type of person who would take anything, $1, $10 million. Would you take $10 million to destroy your community? I know most people would. But your legacy matters. There's more important things than your time on this earth.
Within that yellow area.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe that's a question for staff.
Yep.
I don't know.
We'll bring staff right up. Simple enough. Yes, ma'am. Is there any other public comment before we answer the question? Come ahead. Thank you.
Here's Molly again. She is the one being most affected by this.
I just want to kind of echo what Fran was saying. I'd like to see, I'm looking at this, and what I notice is there's a lot of, either the file name is Lullwater Lake, the grant file, the title of the document is Lullwater Lake, but the contents is Lullwater Lake Basin. So if you look at the grant agreement in there, it's just talking about the basin, and I thought this effort was to clean up the lake, not necessarily for the entire basin, for people like Simon or for people like St. Joe or for people like the city. Like Frank.
When she says Simon, she's talking about Pier Park. That's Simon Properties. In other words, the big developers. So the $3 million, they want to use it to make them happy. To hell with the residents, to hell with Molly. Molly, you should have seen what they, in an email, you had, I don't even want to get into the story too much, but we got emails where the people profiting from this were calling her an effing bitch. And that they needed to blow her up and all this crazy stuff because, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and that effing bitch is going to cost us a lot of money. There are emails that say this, and these council people continue to vote and give contracts to these so-and-sos who wrote these emails. That's what they call her. So that while she's sitting there trying to save her home and the community, she's about 5 feet tall, but she's a giant in this community. They treat her like this.
And I'm kind of concerned at the scope of this. What is the water quality? Where is it coming in at? You know, we know where it's going out at. I do think that the city will be hard pressed to get a grant from the state to clean up something that is continually being polluted. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Let's like restore it, but then let's also dump in it. I mean, you know.
But that's only using logic, and I'm not trying to be funny at all. I'm really not. That's only if the people who are issuing the permits were acting in good faith. But what if the St. Joe Company, which is owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, they own more than 20% of the St. Joe Company now, and they've got all the juice to do anything they want in the whole world. What if, and tell me if I'm way out on a limb in this, what if our federal agencies maybe are not acting in good faith? Maybe they're told what they're supposed to do to make the big guys happy, the real big guys. So when you ask, how's the federal government giving them protection when they commit crimes? How are they issuing permits that obviously are fraudulent? You just have to remember how big this really is.
What is it? What are we doing here? It's really kind of crazy, I think. My personal opinion is I think that this project is being used to buffer other projects. I don't really think that you have good intent for the lake, unfortunately. I'd love to see it clean. Believe me, I would love nothing more than to see it clean.
That's not what they want to do.
I'm just a little bit concerned at the language in here. I'd like to see the language shaped up to be consistent. I don't like this, you know, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do that. Oh, I don't know what we're going to do. Then also, when will you all be going to Tallahassee to promote this?
Any other questions?
Can you believe that?
No, that's what
answer?
I'd love to ask, because if the Taste of Florida is going.
Look, man, she comes. She tries all the time to talk to her city, but they stonewall her. So she's forced to come and sit through this and go up there and ask questions, plead for help. And their answer is that all? Are you done? Look, we, the people, we used to lose all the elections around here. But mayors are losing now. The word is getting out. Just ask Mexico Beach and Al Cathy, the longtime mayor that the St. Joe Company needed so bad. Or Greg Brudnicki in Panama City, who the St. Joe Company needed so bad. They were defeated by Michelle Miller and Doc Rowan, who are now the mayors. Nobody thought that could happen. So when you tell me that Mark Sheldon's got 90 grand in the bank and he's going to have probably 200, whatever it takes to keep him in office, ultimately it comes down to us saying, no, we won't let the show go on. We will not let the show go on. We will protect our community. We'll throw your asses out. If the FBI and Sheriff Tommy Ford are not going to do what they have a duty to do, they've got all of the evidence now. I understand why Sheriff Tommy Ford won't, actually. But the feds have a little longer reach. All right, let's. Is that all, Molly? Is that all you got? Yeah, boy, Sheldon is really. I mean, this is Thursday night. This is last night. So his arrogance is really high because he spent the day with Governor Scott and CFO Petronas and Sheriff Tommy Ford. So he's just like, up yours, man. I can do whatever I want. We got protection, baby. Get your little bitch ass out of here. That's how they write about her in emails. And everybody pretends this is normal and okay.
Going on around the same time. I'd like to be there for that too. I hear one of our local kids is going to be out there, one of our local restaurants. So, nope, those are my questions, and I'd like to get those answered in a public forum, please.
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am, please step up. We'll close public comment.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the scope includes several.
I mean, will you be honest with me? Have you ever seen that much arrogance? And I mean, he laughs. If he's watching this right now, they're laughing their asses off. Look, Bernie's all mad. Ha ha ha. Bernie's all mad. I mean, is there a good FBI agent? Homeland Security? They're all over the place here. You have the evidence. You know what's going on. And you know about the cover-up. Where are all the good people at? I'm telling you that, well, maybe you don't believe it, but I do. One day, you'll be held to account one way or another. I know you go to church and I don't. But I believe that my Creator will say, what did you do to make my world a better world? Did you protect the vulnerable? Did you stand up to the bullies? Did you take your talents and use them? Did you take your resources? Did you take your resources and use them? What did you do? See, that's the answer. That's the answer that matters most. Am I right or wrong?
Techniques, including sampling to see what the water quality is doing out there. We're going to do some small-scale dredging to improve water flow between the 5 lakes. And the lakes are Lullwater, Star, Palm, Gulfview, and Seahorse. And we'll also be doing some aquatic vegetation management and actually establishing a floating wetland to help with water quality and then just promote
Did you hear that?
long-term health.
They're going to establish a floating wetland on Lullwater Lake, a floating wetland, a giant piece of moss. And she almost couldn't bring herself to say it. This is an official with the city. She barely knows what these little lakes are around Lullwater Lake in the basin. She barely knows. Molly knows all about it. She lives there. No one knows more than Molly about Lullwater Lake. She loves it. It's her treasure. But watch the lady when she could barely bring herself to say, and actually, she didn't want to do it. And actually, we're going to establish a floating wetland. So they're draining the real wetlands north of Back Beach Road, sending the water, discharging the water into Lullwater Lake. Then they're going to create a floating artificial wetland, and the water underneath it that's polluted, they're going to discharge in the Gulf of Mexico. You're telling me that Mayor Sheldon can win an election in April on that? Destroying our resources and polluting the Gulf of Mexico and depleting the wetlands? Hell no. Watch, the lady can barely get herself to say it. It's so crazy.
The scope includes several techniques, including sampling to see what the water quality
She already does
is doing
that.
out there.
Molly.
We're going to do some small-scale dredging to improve water flow between the 5 lakes. And the lakes are Lullwater, Star, Palm, Gulfview, and
Remember, this is $3 million they're talking about. Does that sound like $3 million of work to you? Well, Bernie, you don't know how much moss we're going to buy. You don't know how big the wetlands we're going to establish as a floating wetlands. The purpose of wetlands is that it absorbs the rain and it percolates in the soil and does magic, beautiful, natural things, dynamic, beautiful things for the springs, the water in the springs, for the animals, for the little bugs, all of nature's beauty is a real wetland. So they're going to destroy this almost as if, just to laugh at you even more, almost as if to just poke you in the chest and we all laugh at you. Almost for kicks and giggles. We're going to destroy the real wetlands and we're going to build an artificial floating wetland and put it on top of Lullwater Lake. Just because we can, and you don't matter. And there's nothing you can do, nothing you can say. There's not a single FBI agent who's going to do anything. The Homeland Security's too busy. I'm just joking. I won't say any more about Homeland Security. But no, who's going to do anything? Mark Sheldon spent the day with Sheriff Tommy Ford and Griff Griffiths passing tickets around. What are you going to do about it? Just say what you're supposed to say, lady, and you can keep your job. Watch, she almost can't even bring herself to say it. Watch.
seahorse. And we'll also be doing some aquatic vegetation management and actually establishing a floating wetland to help with water quality and then just promote long-term health for the lake.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
This is obviously part of the project that we tried to have a couple years ago and fought for to get from Tallahassee.
I can't do it anymore. I really can't. I got a glass of apple juice waiting for me. All right, I'm going to look at your comments and make a couple closing comments right after this.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. Yeah. That's how they treat us, and all I can say about that is...
This will not stand, This aggression will not stand, man.
The show will not go on. We're not going to let the show go on, are we? And speaking of Mayor Mark Sheldon, perfect transition. If you want to know more about the guy running for re-election in April, if that wasn't bad enough, check this out. Mayor Mark Sheldon is pushing for a $10 million pedestrian bridge to connect Frank Brown Park to Aaron Besant Park. It's great for music festivals. It's the city's #1 priority this year. They've got a bunch of projects, and they plan to spend $236 million. 2 years ago, the budget for the city was only $42 million. That's why locals are paying so much more in assessments to the city. Mayor Sheldon says it's worth it. After all, he owns Gulf Coast Jam. The city's #1 priority will benefit his music festivals. He wants more state and federal grant money as a slush fund.
These are significant projects that will make a huge difference in our community. The first is to pursue any available state aid for the planning, design, and environmental studies related to a pedestrian bridge connecting Aaron Besant Park and Frank Brown Park. This walkover would link these two public parks and provide a safer avenue for our residents.
I forgot. Those of you who are still here, I got a treat for you. I forgot to show you this. So 2 years ago, I did a show. Notice how much better the camera is. when I show you this, you're going to say, damn, Bernie, you got your equipment's a lot better than it was. Yeah, I'm very proud of that, actually. But I'm going to show you this. The content might not be as good now as it used to be, but, that's another story. But 2 years ago, I proved that the city gave the FBI, when they were subpoenaed by the FBI in 2020, they altered a copy of the plat. People go to prison for that. For that, they go to prison for a long time. Unless they've got big time protection. You ready for your eye bulbs to pop out? Eye bulbs. See, when my youngest daughter was 3, she used to say eye bulbs. And I never corrected her because it was so damn cute. Your eye bulbs. Your eye bulbs are about to pop out of your head right now. Okay, let's take a look at this short little clip where I prove that the city gave an altered document to lie and mislead the FBI. And the FBI did anything about it. Watch this. After we take a look at the altered document that the city gave the FBI in January. All right, here we go. So the plat, remember, is of this property. That right there was designated a boat launching area in the plat, and it was dedicated in 1962 to the owners in the subdivision in Lullwater. Now, right to the side there, not across the street, but the closest house there, that's Mayor Mike Pay-to-Play Thomas's son's home. And so Mayor Thomas said, we got to spend about $50,000 and build a park, a playground, right, over that boatyard that was dedicated by developer Sam B. Hearn to the owners in the subdivision. And they knew in April of 2019, certainly in June 2019, that it was not theirs. It was private property. But what the hell? They've gotten away with it for how long? Now, this is the plat. This is the true and correct plat. And you can see that Sam B. Hearn and his corporation, who owned that land in what's called a fee simple title, which is the highest title you can have, right? He dedicated Lullwater Lake, read it, this is important, this is really important that you see this part, as well as all the lakes and parts of lakes. This is the part they took out, and parks and boat launching area, because if they had handed that over, then the FBI wouldn't have to work so hard. But then the FBI could say, wait a minute, the boat launching area, that's where you put Popeye Park. That's where you put the playground. But please notice right in the center, parks and boat launching area. This is the version. This is the copy of the plat. Now, plats are big and they're kept in government quarters, right, in the halls of records, in those areas. It kind of reminds me of Chinatown. Every time I think about the halls of records, there's a great scene in Chinatown, the great movie Chinatown, about that. Jack Nicholson walks in. Oh, it's great. But see if you can find parks and boat launching area in the copy of the plat that was given to the FBI by the city in January. Here it is. Boom. Well, look at that. Dedicates Lullwater Lake as well as all the lakes and parts of lakes and parks and boat launching area. What the hell? Where did that go? Where'd that go? At parks and boat launching area. There it is, right in the middle. Where'd it go? Now you see it. Now you don't. Look at that. That is a copy. Okay. Oh my God. This is so crazy. The true and correct copy of the plat says that the owner, all right, it says that the developer dedicated it, and it talks about the owners in fee simple Okay, so they added the S. The real plat says owners with an S. The real plat says subdivided and replatted Lullwater Lake, as well as all the lakes and parts of lakes with it. Okay, this is the one that's fake. On the bottom red line, all the lakes and parts of lakes. Then it was supposed to say the boatyard and all of the parks. It's gone. It's not there anymore. But all of this font is made to look like the actual 1962 font. This is what the city gave the FBI to mislead and deceive the FBI. What's the city say about it? I asked them at a meeting. Do you deny what I'm saying? They did not deny it.
Wow. So these are the notes of City Attorney Amy Myers. And you know what's really interesting? Can I tell you what's really interesting? Maybe it was a mistake, right? Maybe they just transcribed it wrong. The only thing is, when you transcribe something, it doesn't look exactly like the 1962 text, does it? Want to see something else amazing? Look at the second line where it says owner in fee simple, right? The owner is Hearn, the corporation there. Sam B. Hearn and his.
See, this is the true and correct copy of the plat. They added an S because they didn't want the FBI to know that the owner of that land was Hearn. The owner, he owned it in fee simple, and he dedicated it to the homeowners in the subdivision.
Hearn and Coran Corporation. That's the owner of all the land. This is just part of it where he dedicates the parks and the lake and the boat launching area to the owners in the subdivision. But watch the word owner. Second line, watch the word owner. Owners?
Bing.
Well, hell, the copy of the plat that the city gave the FBI in January says it's plural. You see that? Singular in the real, true, and correct plat. Plural. Now, how the hell did that happen? See, in 1962, what Sam Hearn did is he rededicated this land because in 1957, there was a different plat earlier. 5 years before that, there was the El Centro plat. So actually, if you look at the true and correct copy of the plat, look at the line right below owner. To be the land to be surveyed, re-subdivided, and replatted, right? Because this is the 1962, the new plat, the Diamond Head plat.
That's the real one.
And it's replacing certain parts of the 1957 plat. So this is re-subdividing and replatting. But look at the copy that the city gave the FBI. It just says subdivided and platted, as though it's the first time. But the real one, right below owner, says re-subdivided and replatted. Well, that's a big difference. Maybe they just transcribed it wrong in the same exact kind of writing they used in 1962. It could happen to anybody, I suppose. The three biggest changes to the copy of the plat, which is like the constitution of the land, that the city gave to the FBI, these are Amy Myers' notes. She's a city attorney. She's smarter than I am, smarter than you are. She's real smart, actually. And pretty nice, too. Pretty nice person. I can't say the same for Cole Davis, but Amy's really nice. But I mean, how the hell did this happen? The city changed the owner to plural. See that? Owners. Changed, re-subdivided, and replatted just to subdivided and platted, as though it was the first time in 1962. And the craziest part of all is that the city wants, more than anything, the city wants the parks. There are 4 lots, 3 lots, and 1 boat launching area that's now Mayor Mike Thomas's playground for his kids. Right? So there's 4 pieces of property
in this area that are called, 3 are parks, 1's a boat launching area. Those are the ones that the city wants, right? So the city gives to the FBI a copy of the plat, but it leaves that part out so that the owners can't say it's theirs because it's not in the plat. It wasn't dedicated. Not in the fake copy, but in the true and correct copy, it sure does. Right in the middle, parks and boat launching area. Now, isn't that something? What would happen to you if you gave the FBI an altered document that's being used as evidence in an investigation of public corruption after this is in January? They subpoenaed all of them in February. This is the real one. This is the real one. This is the altered one. Imagine that. And this was all happening in 2021. And instead of the FBI and Sheriff Tommy Ford and his public trust unit, instead of them going after the people who did that, they myopically focused on the whistleblowers in Lynn Haven, Mayor Margot Anderson and developer James Finch. That's why all 64 charges against Margot Anderson were dropped, because they were lies from beginning to end. And that's why James Finch had to go to 2 trials. One was a hung jury, and the second took less than an hour, not guilty. Of course he's not guilty. Not of what anything I saw. And I looked. I was there in the courtroom. I saw the testimony. I would sit with James and pour over this stuff, say, what about that, James? Oh, damn, really? You know who wouldn't sit and do that stuff with me? The people who were accusing them. So the real criminals got away. And the FBI knows this. Sheriff Tommy Ford knows this. Homeland Security knows this. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows. All right, that's enough. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Fix it? That ain't happening. But at least I can document it. At least I can tell you about it. Then we can go from there, I suppose. Sure wish I was more than an ankle biter, but, got to be what you are, You're not a Great Dane, Bernie. Just go around nipping at ankles. Hey, be what you are, baby. Be what you are. I want to thank the Unknown Patriot for helping me nip on some ankles. Thanks to the Unknown Patriot for your support of the show. Thank you to those of you who throw a little tip in the tip jar. That's what Patreon is. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson, as little as $5 a month. Do you know how much it helps me? 10 people, $5 a month, $50 a month. Helps keep the Liberty Lounge going. This is a real office here that I got to pay for and keep the lights going and all that jazz. And boy, I sure appreciate those of you who do it. It is anonymous, so you don't get in trouble. It is easy, and you can quit at any time. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. And I know that's the best $5 you can spend on the internet. $5 a month for this. I appreciate you so much. All right, I got to go. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon.